And you could see even on this page,
Lisa Pueblo is sitting at her kitchen table, scrambling, fumbling around with 6-year-old paperwork, trying to figure out what went wrong with the purchase of her RV parked outside.
We're gonna get this.
She says at first she thought there was no way her family could afford it, but the salesman at General RV crunched some numbers and convinced her. The nearly $100,000 Thor motor coach was going to end up costing about $156,000 over the next 20 years.
I was so excited. I FaceTimed my dad and my mom, and I'm showing them everything, and the salesman's just laughing.
The honeymoon phase only lasted 5 years, with the eventual realization that the paperwork sent from the dealership to Jordan Credit Union was a cleaned-up version of what she actually signed.
You could definitely see that that's been tampered with.
She says even though General RV convinced her to agree to a 20-year term, or 240 payments, one of her 50 pages of paperwork is different and confusing. Look right here, the number 119 typed on the same line as 240. That's 10 years, not 20, with a big balloon payment due in 2025.
I would have walked away. There is no way I can come up with $63,000. It says 240 months. Everything on here says 240 months. I don't know how they've done it, but everything on everything says 240, other than where it's been typed over that 119.
When Fox 13 looked at the other price figures on the same sheet of crossed out paperwork, it is clear that the math was designed for what Lisa had in mind, a 20-year loan. But that's not what's being enforced.
When we left, we were so confident that this was a 20-year loan, and my thoughts are, what did I get myself into for 20 years?
My initial reaction is there's a lot of smoke here. There's probably some fire.
Stephen Whiting is a neutral third-party attorney, not affiliated with this case.
I've had a chance to take a look at the documents. I see the 240 all over these documents. It's not like we're talking about, hey, maybe there's one typo. It's pretty clear in looking at them that the number 240 was meant to be used. It looks to me like it was changed after the fact. The question is, why was it changed after the fact?
When Fox 13 reached out to General RV, they said they could not answer our questions out of respect for customer privacy.
So basically, she's reaching out to you and telling you nothing. Strict confidentiality, we can't talk to you about this.
Even though Lisa agreed to waive all privacy concerns, still, General RV had no comment.
I told him, I said, I will have Adam at Fox News investigate, take this story and run with it, because I am sure I'm not the only one. I don't think they care. I think they're so big that they don't care.
The parties have to agree to the terms. If someone is changing the terms, that makes it very difficult for another party to agree to them, particularly if they don't even know about the changes.
Now Lisa is looking for creative ways to make money, even though she feels like she's paying for someone else's mistake.
I usually donate every Monday and Friday. I just heard that you could make money donating plasma, and it saves a life.
Since we first spoke, General RV has reached out to Lisa.
I had reached out to them several times, and they would not talk to me about it. You reached out to them. He left me a message on Tuesday morning. He called me twice on Monday.
She says the only thing the dealership has offered so far is to refinance with longer terms and bigger payments.
Why would I want to pay a higher payment with a higher interest rate but still have to put more money down on it? I think people should be aware that possibly this could have happened to them.
If I was the judge on this case and someone's coming to me and saying the number was changed, I instantly am looking at it and saying, okay, there appears to be some evidence of the number being changed. This is not a frivolous claim.
This is a copy that I got. I signed it here and here and here. My wife signed it there. I signed it here and signed it there. I signed it here and signed it there. And down here, General RV is blank.
This man says he wishes a few missing signatures were the only thing wrong with the General RV contract for his 2015 Tiffin Allegro.
Well, I would watch Fox 13 News the other day that you had on TV with a young lady that had a smudge on her numbers. So I looked at mine and I got the same thing.
You could definitely see that that's been tampered with.
We first introduced you to Lisa Pueblo from Farmington 2 weeks ago when she showed us discrepancies with her General RV paperwork. She says the dealership convinced her to agree to a 20-year loan, but was surprised years later when she saw the number 119 typed on the same line as 240. cutting the length of her loan in half and setting her up with a $63,000 balloon payment due in 2025.
I would have walked away. There is no way I can come up with $63,000. It says 240 months. Everything on here says 240 months. I don't know how they've done it, but everything on everything says 240 other than where it's been typed over that 119.
No smudge here and a smudge there. It looks like the 119 was stamped on top of it.
Roger Barnes from Midvale is a different customer with the same type of smudge on his contract. He's facing a more expensive balloon payment, $83,000. Do you think this could be happening to more people?
I think so. I really do. If they've done it to me and to her, who else knows?
We've been stressed as to what and how we were going to deal with that here in the next year and a half.
Jamie Preciado in Colorado also has the same smudge and a $105,000 balloon payment coming up in 2023.
This is not right the way they done this paperwork. How they done this, I have no idea.
And then there's the Beergard family in Tooele. They showed us their carbon copy, 240 on the same line as 119, plus a surprise $73,000 balloon payment.
To me, it's one of the most crookedest things that we've ever got into.
Once they found out, they were fortunate enough to have enough money to pay off the loan in full.
It is an ongoing investigation, obviously, and we wouldn't have had this investigation without you bringing it forward.
Alan Shinney, director of Utah's Motor Vehicle Enforcement Division, has opened a fraud investigation into General RV.
I watched your initial story, and to be frank with you, I thoroughly appreciated the story because that's really what it is about. The first thing I did when I got into the office the next morning is I wanted some answers.
In your 20 plus years of doing this, have you ever seen a case like this with multiple smudges on multiple contracts?
Never seen that before. I mean, it's one thing to say, look, you have paper jams. Everyone's got paper jams. Everyone's got carbon problems, but not identical across the board to different transactions. I have never seen that before.
Can you even fathom a reason why that could happen?
They very well could have been deceived. It's sure looking that way.
I just don't think it's right because they're taking advantage of the people.
The smudge is not the only thing these customers have in common. Each of them bought from the General RV location in Draper between 2013 and 2015. None of them say they knew about a balloon payment until years later, when they learned the dealership sent cleaned up copies of their contracts to their respective credit unions.
The credit union's paper shows 119. I mean, there's two different papers here. If this is what they showed me, I would have never done it.
And most importantly, none of these customers' paperwork show math that adds up to a 10-year loan.
When you signed this contract, were you also looking at these numbers up here?
Yes, because when it reflects to the payment.
I think most people aren't concerned with trying to double check the math, like you've done.
Mountain America Credit Union said it could not comment on the specifics of individual cases, but Fox 13 has spoken to multiple experts in the auto industry, all of whom say the faulty math on these documents is very concerning, even more than the smudge.
Anytime we find anything that we don't think is right, then we're going to check it out.
In each and every case, it is clear that the total payment was calculated with terms that the customers had in mind, 20 years or 240 months. Investigators agree.
Clearly, after reviewing what you showed me, it clearly says that. That does not make sense.
The math still has to add up, right?
It does have to add up. We would argue that point to the county attorney's office. If they interpret it as fraud, then we would be able to file charges.
Almost seems like it was shady, intentional.
You just can't do things like this. It gives General RV a bad name. We'll never buy anything from them again. We won't. We won't even look at them.
General RV's got their money already. That's the sad part about it. They've already got their money because they've already financed it.
And how big was his balloon payment?
$83,000.
And how does he think he's going to come up with $83,000?
He's on a fixed income. He's on Social Security.
That's catastrophic.
I told him, I said, I will have Adam at Fox News investigate, take this story and run with it, because I am sure I'm not the only one.
We first introduced you to Lisa Pueblo last April, a mother in Farmington who bought a motorhome from the General RV location in Draper in 2015.
I don't know what this says because it's all been typed over.
Years later, she found a $63,000 smudge on her paperwork and started donating plasma to help pay for it.
Have a good day. Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. I really felt like I wasn't alone.
Lisa was right. She was not the only one.
This is a copy that I got. I signed it here and here and here.
Over the next few months, Fox 13 reviewed dozens of contracts where General RV employees smudged the numbers to add balloon payments and cut the length of the loan in half. In this case, Roger Barnes in Midvale had a surprise payment of $83,000 due in 2025.
I cannot come up with $83,000 of one lump sum. I don't think the credit union changed it. I think our General RV changed it.
Anytime we find anything that we think is, not right, we're going to investigate it. The smudge thing, I don't know exactly how. I don't know how that exactly happens. We get the contracts when they come in through the dealership. They come electronically to us.
Credit unions across Utah say they also started looking at all General RV contracts on file. They reported dozens of discrepancies to the state, showing faulty math on the paperwork. In each case, credit unions now say they have watched the Fox 13 investigation, and they've worked with customers to refinance the balloon payments.
I'm glad it really helped a lot of people, because otherwise it would have been like the biggest gut kick in the world.
Mountain America Credit Union agrees they probably should have caught the problem earlier.
I think it's totally possible that we could miss that. I think most people aren't concerned with trying to double check the math, like you've done.
I firmly believe that as a result of your story, these victims would not have been made whole.
Alan Shinny is the director of Utah's Motor Vehicle Enforcement Division. For months, he has been looking into possible criminal charges against General RV employees.
There was crimes, in my opinion, committed because I clearly know the difference between a 20-year loan and a 10-year loan with a balloon payment.
He says the state's investigation revealed 4 General RV employees who all worked at the Draper location between 2014 and 2017 were responsible for manipulating paperwork.
Did it happen? Absolutely it did happen. When we initially asked the question, we were told it didn't happen, but we know it happened.
According to the case file obtained by Fox 13, some of the employees blamed outdated computer software, which is why they taped a piece of paper over the documents as they printed. The employees told investigators, quote, "Thousands of deals were done this way," but their goal was not to deceive the customer. Still, the state says it was never able to find a reasonable explanation for so many instances of incorrect math.
The one person that I believe to be the one that was the mastermind of that is no longer in the state of Utah. He's not here.
I think they should go to prison. It was like everything about it was wrong.
These are often difficult cases to prosecute, but that doesn't mean that we don't prosecute hard cases. We do all the time.
Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill tells Fox 13 his office cannot take action because the sales happened too long ago.
The statute of limitations means that we have a hard stop. That doesn't mean that crimes didn't happen, that there weren't victims, but our agency is precluded from acting upon it. And for me to make a comment on it would be unfair.
In my opinion, it was a stumbling block of the investigation.
The most recent cases they found were in early 2017, but in Utah, charges for communications fraud must be filed within 4 years.
And there was never a case that came forward in the last 4 years?
There was not.
So is this a practice that they abandoned at some point?
It appears to be that way.
The statute of limitations are important because you want to report crimes in a timely fashion when people's experiences and memories are fresh.
The state says General RV cooperated with the investigation and that none of the 4 employees work for General RV anymore, although some do still work in the industry.
It would be amazing if their names came out, and buyer beware. If names were to come out, I think those employers would be like, we better take a look at some paperwork.
There is no question in my mind that if a complainant would have came forward 1 year, 18 months into that loan payment and noticed that, I believe we would have got a prosecution. I have no doubt in my mind we would have got a prosecution on that.